Be sure to check out the 4 demo levels I have in the Audio Reactive Maps folder. I have a DMX demo that has a fun little setup with a bunch of rows of strobes and some static heads, and all the fixture types over here being solo controlled, while all of these are all blanket controlled lights. And then we have my laser demo level, which shows off the, let me turn on the lit real fast. This shows off the solo control for laser fixtures. And then we have the laser demo that shows off the group control for lasers, where I have 4 independent groups. Then last but not least, I have my multifunction demo that shows off a lot of the original audio reactive functions of this blueprint, where you could control just simple like static meshes, actors containing meshes, point lights, spotlights, and Niagara particles. So let me just demo this real fast. So feel free to check these out. Just look into anything that interests you, see how it works, and apply it to your own projects. Okay, so let's dig into the new DMX tools and new editor utility widget. For this example, I'm going to be using the DMX previs sample that Epic lets you use for free from their library. If you wish to kind of follow along and use the same example, go to Fab and just type in DMX, and it'll be this guy right here. So it's the first one, the DMX previs sample. Just add it to your library. It'll open as its own project, and then you'll be to this exact point where I'm at right now. So now that we're in here, first of all, I'm going to disable the performances that they have already installed into this default level. So I'm going to take the previs animations level sequence over here. I'm going to take their soundtrack and even their event blueprint, and I'm just going to delete them. Okay, so now when we hit play, we shouldn't get a performance. There we go. That's what we want. Nothing at all. Okay, so to start, we're going to drag our audio reactive blueprint into our level. So let's just drag it in. And let's go ahead and open up the new widget. So the widget is right here in the same folder. We just right click, you do run editor utility widget, and it will dock over here in the side panel. And one of the nice things is if you accidentally end up closing this, you don't have to go back in your content drawer. It will dock itself up here in tools under editor utility widgets. So once it's launched one time out of the content drawer, it will show up here forevermore. And you can just relaunch it from here. Okay, so now we are in this large scene with a lot of fixtures. I think there's around 600 to 700 lights between all the moving heads and the strobes and the static heads and the washes. They have lasers and several other types. And let me go ahead and bump into unlit for a moment so you can see what's going on. So what we're going to do is we have to update all of our fixtures to be the audio reactive versions that just contain a couple special variables that allow them to work in the in my master blueprint. So the first button we're going to do is the update all fixtures to audio reactive right down here. And I'm going to go ahead and open up my output log so you can see exactly what's going on. I'm going to right click, clear it, and I'm going to dock it for a moment just so we can see exactly what's happening. Let's go ahead and do update all fixtures. And if it hangs for about 3 to 4 seconds, it means it's working. There we go. So let's go ahead down to the bottom of my log. And you can see right here, all done. Total fixtures replaced 558. So you can see already how quickly this works. Let me go ahead and go up to these trusses up here and go into lit mode. Now I have game mode hidden right now. So if I push G, we're going to go back into seeing all of our decals. And as you can see, every single light fixture now has this glowing red not assigned tag. Now this will appear on every fixture that is of these types right here. I support moving heads, static heads, strobes, the washes, and lasers. So with all those fixture types combined, my blueprint found 558 fixtures and replace them all with my audio reactive kinds at the same exact positions they were before. And you can see in the outliner they're now much more organized. The first one's going to be, they're all going to end in AR for audio reactive, and you should have all 588 in this list right here. So then from here you can go on and organize them into folders or however you need. But again, this is just an example using their very large project. That way you can see kind of how it works and easily implement it for even the smallest scale of DMX setups. So now that we have our tags assigned, or not our tags assigned, we're going to go in and do all of our tag assignments, which will allow us to put these into groups and assign them unique effects based on groups. So let me go back into lit. Okay, so we have everything with its red, not assigned tag right now. Let's start with our moving heads, which happen to be the kind of lights down here that line this little catwalk. So we'll use this guy as my little example. Okay, so we have moving head up here and then our select fixture type drop down. Let's go ahead and do select all fixtures of type. Okay, so when you do any kind of select all operation on these fixtures, they have a lot of wireframes that show up, which can be handy initially just to see, okay, you know, I've got all my lights obviously, but I don't want to work like this. So I put in a little tooltip where you can do Alt-R to disable all these selection wireframes. So let's do that and have a much easier time moving around our scene when we have multiple fixtures selected. So now that we have them all selected, the rest of these tools are going to work on basically based on selection. So just keep that in mind. Now that we have our moving heads, let's see if we have any tags. Okay, so there's nothing in the drop down. It's not finding any tags in the scene, at least on these fixtures. Let's go ahead and put a tag in this box here. We'll just type it moving _ 1, and I like to just double click Control C to copy it. That way I can use it later on when I'm putting this exact tag in the blueprint to sync it up with a group. So now let's do add actor tag on selected fixtures. And to make sure this worked, you can always go into your details panel and you see I have all 166 moving heads selected. And if I filter by tag, TAG, I will see right here that all these actors have this one actor tag and it is moving _ 1. So this should always match what we have over here. And if I go back into this drop down, I should now have moving 1 in this list. So now instead of being able to select just all the fixtures of one type, you can start selecting them by their unique tags. So since we still have them all in this group, it's just going to select them all again, but let's go ahead and deselect and do select all by tag. And it should select them all again. Oops, I clicked the wrong spot. If anything ever gets out of sync, just do refresh tags and do what you're trying to do again. Moving 1, select all with tag. There we go. Okay, so for this example, we're just going to go through how to assign these tags into a effect and get all these moving heads up and running. So let's make sure we have an audio track to test with. Let's expand our audio rollout and add an audio track. And for this test, I'm just going to use a simple little like synth melody chord progression that I whipped up real fast. And this is what that sounds like. So now that we have our melody, I'm going to go ahead and just go straight into DMX. We're going to enable it. We're going to go into group control. And let's go ahead and go into our light fixture groups and add an element. And in this roll down, you will see they default moving head, but there are 4 options: moving, static, strobes, and the washes. And the lasers are handled in their own unique arrays. So just keep that in mind. They're the same pretty much settings, but they're all laser specific. So I split them out into 2 different groups. Okay, so in here we have our not assigned. Let's get this assigned. So we need this moving 1 tag over here. Let's go ahead and put that right in here, moving _ 1, and hit enter. As you can see, they've all turned green. And let me grab one that's not colliding with the stage. Let's go up here. There we go. So you can see the moving heads all are in this moving 1 tag in index 0 of the blueprint. So this is going to help you track things real fast. So if you see we have our moving 1 tag, we'll associate with over here, and we have our index 0, which tells us where it is inside our blueprint over here. So as this list grows and grows and grows, it makes it really simple to keep track of all your fixture groups with quick visual ID tags that even work when all the lights are off. So in lit mode, if you have no lights on at all, which is common since the audio reactive stuff only works when the audio is playing, you'll be working in the dark quite a bit. So I find this really helps to help you just see what you're doing, no matter what kind of mode you decide to work in. All right, so we have our moving heads in this index, and we have two functions on by default, and this will be for all fixtures. The first index will always be dimmer, so basically is it on or off, and how bright. And index 1 will always be color. Now for the moving heads, they have a unique color setup. Since they use a color wheel, they don't actually change colors like the strobes and the LEDs and the static heads. So I have this in a tooltip right here where you see it has color wheel, moving heads, 255. Now what this means is if you go into your content folder, I have placed under DMX Master this color and gobo values chart. Now this chart will basically, it's pretty much just a legend of what all the values do for the gobo and for the color wheel. So for this example, we're just using the color wheel stuff over here on the left. And as you can see, it goes from 0 to 255, and they all do preset color values. So if you want a solid color, like a solid pink, you do anywhere from 52 to 55. If you want the nice split down the middle pink yellow, you would do 56 to 59. And once you get up near the 255 range is when you get the automatic animated color rotation, where 255 is the fastest it's going to rotate and 128 is the slowest. Now it'll do the same thing with the gobos on the moving heads. You'll have your range here, and this tells you exactly what kind of pattern to expect on the gobo. And these values right here go into these boxes right here, our color wheel and our gobo. Now these boxes are only activated if they have a matching function. That is why I put color on by default. That way your color wheel can instantly just be set to whatever value you want and you're good. But if you want to control the gobo, you need to add that function. So let's go ahead and add another function. We're going to add gobo. There's gobo. And once we add a function like gobo or color for the moving heads, you can disregard all these options. Just add gobo, collapse it, and now your gobo is controlled by this value right here. And again, just like the chart we're looking at, you set this value to be the pattern gobo you want. And similar to the color wheel, the higher values do animated rotation. So you'll have the gobo, slowly or quickly shifting between all the different shapes. So you can really try and find the exact look you want. So yeah, this is the color chart and the gobo chart for your reference. So the default settings I have for the color and gobo are 255 and 119. So on 255, that will be very fast color, the color wheel shifting. And the 119 on the gobo will also be an animated value. As you can see, it lands right here in the low range of rotating. So I found that 118 and 119, you get a nice slow gobo movement. Any faster and it starts getting pretty fast. You'll see what I mean. So this is at 119. Let's go ahead and test this out and just hit simulate. There we go. So you can see how fast the color wheel is shifting, but you've got a nice slow shift on the gobo wheel. And as you raise this value right here, you'll get quicker and quicker motion on the gobo. And if you start lowering the 255, you'll get slower and slower color shifts. And if you go into the lower ranges of where the color shifts stop and you just start doing and you want a nice split effect, then you just set one of these values. So let's do a magenta cyan blend, 73 to 76. So let's do 74, sure. You can see the colors now split right down the middle. And for this, let's just turn off the gobo. Actually, let's just turn it down to something in the low range so I know it's not going to be animating. There we go. So we've got a star pattern. And we have a nice purple yellow shift. And if we zoom out, we'll see that all of our moving heads are doing this. So it's kind of hard to see because they're a little dim at the moment. So let's fix that. Let's go into our dimmer. Let's just crank this up for a sec, up to 5. There we go. Now with these functions, you can get a lot of control out of these because not only can you add per function assignments, but you can also split your audio tracks per function. So if I want the dimmer, for example, to keep responding to this track, leave it at 0. But if I add another audio track, what will we do? Let's put in, we'll put in base. Now, I know base has some dead space at the beginning of it, so I'm going to like start this whole blueprint ahead of time, just so that way I don't have to wait to hear the results or see the results. And I do playback start time, and I do 6 seconds. I think by then all the instruments have kicked in. So we have our melody, we have our bass. Let's go back into our DMX. So let's add a function to make this guy tilt on its head, so to make the head swing back and forth. So let's collapse this. We're going to add another function. Go into that function and let's add a tilt. Leave everything at default. Actually, I'm not going to leave it at default because tilt is a pretty reactive setting I've noticed. So let's take our strength down to 0.25 just for fun. Let's go ahead and hit play. There we go. You can see they're all subtly tilting now. Let's turn up the tilt a bit. Actually, let's go back to 1. See how that looked. That's pretty wild. Now that's pretty cool. Now let's take tilt and let's put it on the bass. All right, so that didn't change anything because I forgot to turn on my override. So let's turn that on and try it again. There we go. So now we have our dimmer reacting to the pulse of the melody, and the tilt component is reacting to the, I'm going to unlit, there we go. The tilt is now reacting to our bass. And with these lights, just to know which kind of functions you can add, you can just select on one of the lights themselves, go into details, and just drop this down a little bit, scroll down. So yeah, so this is the moving heads. You've got our master DMX component. These are all the components that you can control audio reactive, with audio reaction. So our pan, our tilt, there's the color wheel, the gobo wheel, the dimmer. Now you can also add the strobe or shutter, zoom, which is how wide or focused your beam is, and the frost for how soft your light is. So let's go ahead and add a zoom because I find that is a pretty fun one to use. Let's go back into our blueprint, add one more index. This time we're going to add our zoom. And like always, let's just see how this looks right off the bat. So, not a whole lot going on there. Let's crank up the zoom, see what we get if we go up to a 5. Now we're getting really soft lights. And inversely, if we go the other way, let's go really low to a 0.1. Now we've got pretty focused beams. And one thing that is a fun little layer control I added is now you can turn off the audio reaction on a function. It's going to now disregard the main strength value, and it's going to use the off strength value. So let's go ahead and leave this at 0.1, no audio reaction, and see what we get. All right, now we got laser beams. So let's go up to 2. There we go. They're starting to soften up. So as you can see, when audio reaction is not on, you can get some really dramatic results, especially on the low end, where you can turn these like into really focused beams. So let's go ahead and crank this up to 6. Try one more time. Make sure this looks good. That works for me. So now I want to add one more. Let's see. We got our dimmer, got our color, gobo, the tilt. Yeah, let's turn the gobo motion back on. So down here, I would take my gobo, take this back to 119 where it was. There we go. Now we got gobos, we got zoom animating, we have tilt animating, and dimmer. Looks pretty cool. And one other layer control I wanted to make you aware of is also the ability to not only mute a group, but you can also mute per function. So if I just want to mute my, let's say I want to mute my gobo, hit play. See, so now the gobo's off. And if I unmute that, simulate, gobo's back on. So it's a nice simple way to help you isolate each effect before kind of combining them all in the end. All right, let's set up another fixture type. Let's go ahead and do our strobes. So I'm going to select my strobes in the widget, select all of type, and you can see over here I've got 122 of them. They line all the bridges on top, and they have these panels, 2 on each side. I think that's about it. You can always do Alt-R to really see where they're at. Ah, it's so terrible. Alt-R again. There we go. Now my eyes aren't bleeding. And let's go ahead and assign our tag. Let's go ahead and do, let's keep it simple, strobe. Very creative. Do assign to the selection. And to verify, we can always type our tag in here and make sure we got our strobe on all 122. So then back into our details panel for audio reactive, let's add another group. And let's change this to strobe. We get close to these so you can see the change real time. Let's type in our tag, STROBE. As soon as I hit enter, there we go. We have our index 1 assignment for all these strobes. So we're getting less and less red, which means just about everything is assigned. It's always a good feeling. So let's go ahead and set up a few functions. I'm going to expand this. We have our default dimmer and color like before. Now for the strobe color, as with static heads and the washes, you will just use the simple color right here. So let's go ahead and add one more effect. Since this is a strobe, let's add the strobe effect. So in here it is shutter. Shutter and strobe are just synonymous in here. They both mean the same thing. So shutter controls your strobe. And again, you can just collapse this and you have our shutter strobe effect setting right here that will control what it is doing. So let's go ahead and set this to a value of 200, which is something I know I like. Let's go ahead and here we go. So under the DMX master, we have this effects tables. This has all the individual tables that control all the lights for all these. Just like the image I was just showing you with the color and global values, this has a few more details for things like strobe. So if we go into the strobe table, we have, you see right here where we have close, open, strobe, pulse with the BPM, and a bunch of random settings. And you can see the effect minimum maximum shows you kind of the speed that it's running its different strobe effects. So as you get to the higher end of these ranges, you can expect faster speeds. So I'm going to test out 119, which lands right in this pulse BPM. So let's see here. Yep, got shutter on, 119. Let's hit play. That's kind of cool. So it's doing like a random flicker effect, which is kind of cool. And let's go ahead and mute this function for now. Let's see what it looks like default. They're all over the place too, yeah. Perfect, so we have our moving heads, our strobes, and what else do we have set up? I think that's it. Yep, just these two indices. So now let's add our, what else do we have in here? We have our washes. So let's select all of those. Looks like there are 16 in this scene and they're just on the bottom of the strobe panels. So let's go ahead and assign them, just WASH. Copy that, assign to all, and then go into our blueprint. Let's add a group. These are going to be washes. Wash, enter. Make sure they turn green. Oh, I pressed G. There we go. There we go. So we have our washes, and they are on index 2. So just to keep it simple, let's just change their color. Hit play. So everything by default is reacting to track 0. There we go. So washes are great for fills, broad. Yeah. Not so much the focus beam. You can do the focus beam using the zoom component on these, but I think typically they're used more for fills. There we go. So now we have our moving heads, our static, actually we don't have static heads, we just have moving heads, strobes, and LEDs. So let's do our static heads, because I know there's a lot of these. There we go. See, they're all over the place, and there are 248 of them. Let's do static, copy, assign to the fixtures, and back to our blueprint. Let's add this guy right here, static head. Paste in our tag, hit enter. There we go, and they should all be green now. There we go. So we got our statics all on index 3. It's like these are all shooting horizontally through these fixtures up here. So we have our color, we have our dimmer. Let's just change color to yellow. See how it looks by default. Okay, right. There we go. So there we go. Within a few minutes, we have an entire stadium full of fixtures ready to go. And even though we're just using 4 groups right now, you can really do as many as you want. You would just need to select the groups you want. See if I just want these 6 right here. Actually, we'll just do the 4 in the middle. See if I want these 4 in the middle to be their own thing. All I would do is clear their tags and then give them a new tag. We'll do strobe mid, copy that, add the tag here, and then we can go down here. I can even take my strobe group I have, duplicate it. Now when you duplicate, it shifts everything down a number. So as you can see, it put the second strobe at number 2 instead of moving it down to 4. All the tags will update accordingly, and nothing will break, but just to keep that in mind, if you duplicate fixture groups, it inserts it and moves everything up a digit, but all the tags and everything should automatically, refresh, and nothing should be out of sync. So now we have our duplicate group in here. Let's go ahead and paste in a new tag, hit enter. Now we have a separate group, and for these guys, I'm going to do some purplites, sure, and we're going to make this go on the base. Let's just hit play. Yeah, they're pretty dim. Let's turn them up. Let's go into the dimmer function. Crank this up to 5 for now. Bit overkill, but you get the idea. So now we want to play with the lasers because everyone loves lasers. So let's go ahead and find the lasers. I feel like I've said lasers many, many times. So let's do select all of type, and you can see there are only 6 in this scene. And now lasers are kind of hard to see because they're smaller, so let's do Alt R to bring back the visualizers. There we go. So there's 2 on each side, 2 in the middle, 1 pointing down, and 1 pointing straight out over the crowd. As you can see, they're sitting back here in the hallway. Not a sign, just waiting for something to do. Okay. Let's go back out to the stadium. Select them all, and let's add a tag called laser. Add the tags there. Now in the blueprint, we're going to be using the laser group rollout. Individual fixture controls I will go over next, but for now, let's just finish up the groups. We'll add 1 laser group, and all you need to put in is your tag. Hit enter. Let's go make sure we got our tag. Let's do Alt R to get rid of these wireframes again. There we go. So this one's upside down, but laser index 0. Same with the one in the tunnel. Yep, there he is. Perfect. So let's go ahead and see what these lasers got. I'm going to stay close to this one actually just so you can see how this all works. So by default, it's probably just going to be blasting some, a few spread lasers out of the tunnel. So let's go ahead and change. We can change the angle, the length, how many beams there are, how wide each beam is, and which audio track it's overall reacting to. And by default, these are all static settings. So as you can see, nothing is changing with the track right now because by default, all of these are off. So you can pick and choose which ones you want them to react to. So for now, let's turn our count up to something high, 46. And I'm just going to make the length react. So let's start with 5,000 and see what we get on the reaction. So he's way out there. Let's go down a little bit. Let's try 2,000. Okay. So we can kind of see the beams. They're kicking out a little bit. So I'm going to make this even smaller on the reactive length. And I'm going to turn up the width. I'm going to double it for now. Hit simulate. Let's make the width even higher. 30. There we go. You can see all the lasers are doing the same thing. 2 over here and the 3 over there. Now if we want more beams, we can just crank this number up. Not 1,000. 96. There we go. So you can get pretty dense fan shapes. And if you want a really cool reaction, you can have the beam count actually be reactive. If we turn this on, set this to 64 and hit simulate. As you can see, the actual number of beams is dynamically changing with the audio. So let me put this on the base. I think it's going to be a little more clear if we're using the base. There we go. So we have our lasers reacting, all to the same. And again, you could just assign each one its own individual, but for now, we're going to finish up this group stuff. So angle is another cool one you can react to. So let's go ahead and angle. Let's set this to 90 to start. Might be a little too high to see with this guy in the tunnel. So let's turn this way down to 30. There we go. So the lower you go, the more focused the entire laser spread is going to be when it's quiet. So let's take our beam count and turn this way down so we're not having so many beams to look at. Even further, let's go to 12. And yeah, you can really dial in the look you want. You can make the width of the beams reactive as well. So if we take this to something like 25, let's exaggerate it. A little bit more to really exaggerate it. There we go. You see when the base gets grindier, all the beams get a lot thicker. All right, so that is lasers. You just set your tag, set your color. You can either set static values for all your parameters up here, select your audio track, or individually turn on all these reactor parameters down here, which will override the angle, length, count, and width up here. So yeah, if these are on, these are being ignored. Okay, so this is the blanket fixture group assignment for light fixtures and for lasers. Now, if you just want a couple lights to do their own thing, let's say this moving head right here, there's just something really special about him. So we're going to give him his own index where he can have his own set of controls. And you can do this with as many fixtures as you want. You can just go one by one and give them unique properties. So first of all, since he is in a group, he needs to have his tag removed. Otherwise, the solo groups down here will not affect him at all. So the easy way is just to select him, kill his tag over here, and you'll see now he's not assigned. So let's go ahead and add him to our light fixture array. We'll hit plus, drop this down, and this is the exact same setup as our fixture types up here. So it should all be very familiar. So let's set him to moving head, which is the default. Now instead of putting in a tag, it wants you to select a blueprint from your scene. Now, if you just have a few fixtures, you can easily just find them in your drop down, but since there are 600 in this scene, I'm going to use my eyedropper. You select this guy here, and look at that. So now he has his blue tag. Blue means he is under individual control. Green means your blanket or group control. And red, of course, means they are audio reactive, but they are not assigned to any groups or solo controls. So now that he's got his own controls, we can pretty much do exactly what we did in our groups, but on the singular, on the solo level. So he's got his color and his dimmer functions. Let's go ahead and set this to, I don't know, 96. Let's see what that is. And we'll put him on the base and just hit play. So now he is the one moving head that doesn't want to do what all these ones are doing. And this applies to any fixture type, moving heads, statics, the strobes, the washes. You can build out this array as big as you would like, use the eyedropper to assign, and use the tag itself on the fixture to track exactly where it lives. As this number list can grow and grow and grow as big as you want, you can always just zero back to, what's my index? There we go, and there's my light. Let's record some audio files to animation curves for sequencer use. So I have this button on my widget at the bottom, prepare audio to curves recording. Now let's go ahead and open up our take recorder before we do anything. This isn't necessary. It'll still populate the take recorder, but this way you can at least see exactly what it's doing. All right, get rid of our curve editor. There we go. So we have our take recorder over here. And if we press this button, it'll say, oh no, you don't have your blueprint in your level. Please put the blueprint in the level. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go to our Audio Reactive Blueprint folder and drag the main blueprint into the level and try that button again. All right, so you see in our take recorder, we now have a level sequence and we have the blueprint automatically added. There are two things you'll need to do before you press record. Actually, 2 or 3 things. Let me just make sure everything is good here. Okay, perfect. So our triggers, we have our sequencer, audio to curves trigger, and our collision trigger. These are different ways to basically trigger the blueprint. By default, it is set to begin play. So let's go ahead and turn on our sequence / audio to curves, which will allow our audio to be triggered via level sequence instead of when we hit play. Let's go ahead and add, we'll do 4 audio tracks to test so you can see how cool this is. And I find it's easy to filter right here. If you just type in track, you don't have to worry about any other drop downs. You just get all your audio tracks and you can just start plugging things in. So let's go ahead and go to our content drawer. We have our stems down here, demo tracks. Perfect. So let's bring in our bass, our kick, our ARP, yeah, and then the melody. So now that they are in, let's go ahead and if we hit play, nothing should happen. Perfect. So now let's get the final checks in place and we can start recording these straight to our sequencer. First, we go into our level sequence that I want to trigger, and I have this default audio to curve sequence that is in the project that it will try and record to. Let's double click on that to open it. And sometimes they open really unexpanded. Here we go. And you'll see right away that it has like a broken actor reference. All you have to do is hit the wrench, advanced, fix references, and that'll go away. And just hit save, and it's done. It shouldn't give you any more trouble. It's just the first time you open the project, it needs to sync up with the exact instance of Audio Reactive that you have in your scene, and then you're good. So then on our blueprint, let's go ahead and check this minus sign here and expand the caret drop down. And this will show all the different things that you can tell it to record. And what we want to focus on is these audio tracks right here. So in this array over here, you can have a maximum of 7, so 0 to 6. You have a maximum of the same amount of audio tracks over here that it will record into the sequencer all simultaneously. So let's turn on 0, 1, 2, and 3. And that should be these tracks here, 0, 1, 2, and 3. And that is pretty much it. One thing I like to do before I hit record is go into the settings, scroll all the way down, and turn off auto lock. That way when the sequence finishes, we don't have to unlock the sequence before we can make any edits to the keys. And once that is set, all we do is hit simulate and then record. We'll get a quick 3-second countdown and it will start writing directly to our sequencer. So I'll let this go just for a moment to get a little bit of data. And when I'm done, I just hit stop in the play view right here. And you'll get this nice little window that says we finished your recording. You just click to browse to it and it'll take you right to the folder. So let me close a few things to have some room to show you some stuff. There we go. So it makes this folder right here for you whenever you use the take recorder. It'll be in your content. You'll have this cinematics folder. Inside cinematics, you'll have your takes and then the date. So we want to go into the one I just did, which is 2. It'll always be the highest number, whichever one you just did. I did one a few seconds ago that just didn't work out, so I started another one. And so we have 2 right here. And if I double click on this subscene, I get my animation editor. Let's full screen this and open our curve editor here. And as you can see, our sequence is unlocked, which is good, which is what that checkbox did, which means we can select these error components and just hit delete. And now we just have our curves. So this is track 0 from our array. You can see that's our kick drum. 1, which is the bass. 2, which is our quick plucky ARP thing. And then we have those, the melody, those synth hits. So you have all 4 of your curves, and from here you can always just do Control A to select all, go into your filters and play around with like smart reduction and Gaussian blurs and ways to just reduce keys and make them easier to use. There's a lot of different things you can try. Like smart reduce works pretty well. When you run that, you have way fewer keys to worry about. So I find smart reduce is one of my favorite things to run immediately after one of these. So let's do it again, smart reduce, and apply. So there we go. That is audio to animation curves. The 4 plugins you will need to ensure are on for everything to work smoothly, especially with the widget, would be Editor Scripting Utilities. You should also have the Python Editor Script plugin enabled, as well as DMX Engine and DMX Fixtures. Now the Python and the scripting plugins should already be on, especially if you use Quixel or other plugins, because they are pretty universal. But just in case, make sure those are on and you shouldn't experience any issues.